Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 22nd of December, 2021. All right, everyone, let's get into it. So, another crazy day in the crypto markets. It was dominated by, well, not so much the market, but I guess like the crypto Twitter sphere. It was dominated by conversations around Web3 and about how people like Jack, the former CEO of Twitter, Elon Musk, obviously everyone knows who Elon Musk is, kind of, I guess, being bearish on Web3 or making fun of it. Now, this is really funny because of the fact that it's just in their best interest to make fun of Web3, I think, especially Jack Dorsey, who, he made his fortune off centralized Web2 companies like Twitter, like Square, and obviously he's stepped down from Twitter and he's focusing on some Bitcoin related things, but I think he's misguided in thinking that Bitcoin is the only thing in crypto worth talking about. I mean, there's so much more obviously worth talking about. And I put out this tweet today where I basically said Web3 has given people 5, 6, and even 7-figure airdrops. Web2 has given people personalized ads, because a lot of the rhetoric is also focused around VCs and how VCs are the ones that are kind of like dominating the Web3 space. And it may be true for some projects, but a lot of projects aren't dominated by VCs. But even still, if you contrast Web2 companies with Web3, I guess, like ecosystems, DAOs, whatever you want to call it, the balance between VCs and community ownership or kind of like retail ownership is very, very different. Let's take Twitter as an example here. I saw a kind of like a breakdown before that I think JP Morgan Chase owns like 9% of Twitter, right? I can't think of any project within crypto right now, a legitimate project that has any one entity that owns 9% of the total supply. Yes, there are projects that have heavy kind of like VC presence, but no single VC owns 9% of the supply of the token, as far as I know. And on top of that, there are also opportunities for, regular retail investors to get in on these tokens much earlier than they would on something like Twitter's stock. For example, Twitter didn't go public for a very long time. By the time it went public, it was already worth tens of billions of dollars. So really, retail became kind of like the retail investors became the people that got dumped on. And I've had this theory for quite a while that the existing kind of like financial system is set up in such a way that the early investors get to extract as much value as they can out of kind of like these investments, and then they need someone to kind of like sell to later. Now, when you really dig deep into it, a lot of the buyers of stocks and things like that are pension funds, right? And pension funds are what? They're retail investors' money. I mean, they're everyone's money, right? But like they're money that is kind of like sitting there and sits there for a long time that kind of like pours in from the everyday person, because most of it is just everyday people adding to their kind of like retirement funds there. And I think it's called the 401k or something in the US, and it's probably different depending where you are. But when you kind of like look at the, I guess, life cycle of a kind of like startup to IPO, you have a startup, raises from VCs, angel investors, whatever else, right? These early inside investors. This is the Web2 world, right? It does a seed or a pre-seed, does a Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D, sometimes Series E, sometimes Series F. Like it can go, as late as they want it to go till, but then eventually they'll IPO, right? And by the time this company gets to an IPO, given that, even if it's not, a lot of the time it has to be a successful company or at least have some traction. But by the time it gets to the IPO stage, it's already worth billions, if not tens of billions of dollars in terms of market cap. And then that's the only opportunity at IPO that retail investors have to invest in these sorts of things most of the time. There are some services that allow retail investors to invest earlier in these stages, but generally it's kind of like that. Contrast that with the Web3 world, with the crypto world, and how many opportunities has been afforded to people to get in on the ground floor of so many different investments. And whether they be kind of like layer 1 investments, layer 2s, NFTs, DeFi, no matter what it is, there's always been plenty of opportunity for the average retail investor to get in on the ground floor, or at least near the ground floor, and ride the wave up to riches, essentially. And that's exactly what so many people have done through, obviously, Bitcoin. They've done it through ETH. They've done it through things like DeFi and NFTs, like being early and stuff. Of course, like you had to sell, right? And then other layer one ecosystems as well. People have made a lot of money there. And then, I'm sure when the layer two tokens come out, it's going to be a similar thing. But you could even count like Matic as a layer two token, and that's done quite well. Whereas you just don't get that in the Web 2 world. So for people like Jack and Elon and maybe any other kind of like people to imply that Web 3 is just a VC playground, especially given the context of them coming from like the Web 2 world, is just really laughable to me. Because at the end of the day, Web 3 is much more empowering. Web 3 has given people these 5, 6, and even 7-figure airdrops. Web 2 hasn't given airdrops to anyone. Like I never got a Twitter stock airdrop, right? Like no one did, right? No one ever got a Twitter stock airdrop. Like we didn't get an Uber airdrop, right? When they went public, we didn't get an Airbnb airdrop or anything like that. So when you kind of like take all that into consideration, it just becomes a thing of, well, I think they're pushing back because they actually see that Web3 can be something really big, right? If it works. Like, obviously, there's still a long journey ahead of us, but the magic of Web3 is that, I think there's two parts of Web3 that are going to work really well. The first part is community ownership, right? True community ownership of these things, even if they have VC investors, right, and things like that, it's usually a much smaller part of the overall kind of like token pie, as opposed to kind of like what it's like in the Web 2 world. So, and also in the Web 2 world, there's no community kind of like ownership. There's no community kind of participation. They're not DAOs or anything like that. And then the second thing, if I remember what I was going to say here, because there's the community ownership, and then the second thing is the open kind of like APIs and open data, where you can basically keep your data to yourself. You don't have to kind of like share it with anyone that you don't want to, and you can take it where you want to go. So let's take a decentralized Twitter, for example, like a truly decentralized Twitter that actually kind of like works and makes sense. It would be just a dumb protocol that allows users to bring their own data and supply it and revoke it at any time with something like an Ethereum wallet. They'd be able to sign in with their Ethereum wallet. They'd be able to use different interfaces to access Twitter. No one could stop people from accessing it because it would be an open API on something like Ethereum. Whereas, centralized Twitter doesn't have that. Centralized Twitter has complete control over everything, and it has all your data. It farms it. It kind of harvests it. It sells it to advertising companies. And then at the end of the day, you get personalized ads. You don't get to be early, or you don't get to kind of like participate in Twitter, and you don't get to have like an airdrop of their stock or anything like that. So yeah, it's funny because like I think I could rant about this for quite a while because it really gets me upset that the hypocrisy is just like intense when I really think about it. But at the same time, I think that there's a little bit of fear there as well from these incumbents thinking, wow, okay, if they really thought about it, they would know that Web3 is kind of like the next evolution of the internet. Makes a lot of sense. It's very empowering. It actually helps people rather than kind of like harvest their information and just sells them kind of pointless shit through personalized ads. I don't know about you guys, but the ads I get are just like stupid. Like they're not even that personalized, to be honest. I'm just scrolling through on my phone and I see these ads. I'm like, why would I even want to buy this? And I just really generally hate the Web 2 model of monetizing via ads. Now I know that it was done like that because people like having things quote unquote for free, but I think that there are much better models out there, especially given the Web3 context with tokens and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves over time, of course, but I'm going to leave it there because as I said, I could rant about this for a long time, but I think that Web3 is inevitable. It's going to happen whether these people want it to or not. That's the beauty of it because it's decentralized. Jack, Elon, whoever else cannot stop this from happening. They can bitch and moan all they want, but Web3 is coming. It's already here, but it's coming and in a really big way over the next few years. It's going to disrupt the internet as we know it, and it's going to change how people interact with the web. So I'm very much looking forward to all of that, but I'm going to leave it at that for today. So Transak has announced fiat on-ramps for Arbitrum and Optimism today. So this is pretty huge, right? Direct on-ramp to L2s via the Transak app. I think this is similar to Ramp Network that I covered last week or the week before. I'm not sure if this has KYC, Transak. It might. Unfortunately, I think that's just the reality that we have to deal with, is that a lot of these things are going to have KYC, but it's the same thing as a centralized exchange, I guess. So really, at the end of the day, it's kind of like what we're all used to, even though though it's not ideal. But yeah, really, really great to see this on both Arbitrum and Optimism's network simultaneously. I'm very, very happy that they didn't just support one of them, they supported both of them simultaneously, and I'm sure that they're going to be supporting more the more L2s as time goes on here. So who do they support today? So they support everyone globally except the USA, which is coming soon. Man, every time I see this, every time I see the US excluded from things or taking longer to get like a new feature or being, missing out on airdrops, it's just so insane to me. Like the US is supposed to be, at least from me, like looking in, is supposed to be literally the land of the free, right? Land of liberty, land of kind of like making it, so to speak, right? But it's so bad when you look at kind of what's happening within crypto. Missing out on airdrops is one thing, and that's obviously a major thing. But other things such as not being able to invest in early stage projects, going back to what I was saying before about kind of like the Web2, Web3 thing, getting kind of like the short end of the stick when it comes to new integrations like this, having all of their financial privacy basically, completely eroded. Like when you do KYC on these centralized US exchanges, they're basically forced to give over a lot of that data to certain parties. I know that Coinbase actually fought the IRS on this back in the day, but they ended up having to give up still a fair amount of people's data to the IRS because, the IRS said that they suspect people of avoiding tax. Now, whether that was true or not, we'll obviously never know, but still, the amount of private, not even just financial privacy, but the amount of privacy you give up in general because you're just giving them all your kind of like personal identifiable information. They're able to track all of your transactions, just like a bank account. It's just insane. I know this doesn't just happen in the US, it happens in a lot of places, but the US is particularly heavy-handed when it comes to financial regulations. And this goes back to what I was saying before about how in the Web2 world, everyday investors or retail investors cannot access these early stage investment deals in large part due to the fact that there's a wealth requirement, right? There is a accredited investor laws which requires you to have at least a $1 million net worth, excluding your primary residence, or you have to have earned, I think, over $250,000 for 2 years in a row. So that is obviously unobtainable for a lot of people. And again, I think it's geared just to favor VCs, favor these kind of like big centralized institutions. They get to invest early and then get it all the way to the IPO stage where they can finally offload their 1000x bags onto just retail investors. And it's really, really bad. So I hope the US gets their shit together here, to be honest, not just for these kind of like fiat on-ramps, but just in general, because when I see this sort of stuff and I see that, a lot of my friends in the US are just getting kind of like shafted on this and not being able to participate in kind of like the bankless revolution and kind of participate in kind of like the future of France, as we like to call it, I just get really, really sad, to be honest, because at the end of the day, as I said, a lot of people view the US and a lot of people, in and outside of the US, view it as kind of like the land of the free, the land of liberty, the land of do whatever you want, and kind of like the land of making it. But it's becoming the land of kind of not going to make it, right? Or have fun staying poor, those kind of like memes out there, which is really bad because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be like a handful of old guys in suits that gets to kind of dictate how people interact with this new technology. And that's what it really is. I mean, we saw this play out with the infrastructure bill. There were so many people who have absolutely no idea what crypto is, what it enables, the fact that it's much more than just kind of like criminals using it, much more than the scams, and how they're going to lose out on economic growth by dragging their feet on this sort of stuff. So I hope it gets better. I think it will. There was a hearing the other day, and a lot of kind of politicians had a really good grasp on crypto. So I think they're learning. But trying to legislate on it when you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about is always super annoying. And it's not exclusive to the US. It's obviously with a lot of countries that they act like this. But unfortunately, in the US, it's seems much more prevalent and much more heavy-handed than other jurisdictions. But anyway, end of the little mini rant there. Still cool to see Transak supporting Optimism and Arbitrum here. So definitely go check it out if it's supported in your region. So Aztec announced Aztec grants today. So their goal with Aztec is to create an open permissionless privacy ecosystem. That's why they developed Aztec Connect. And obviously with Aztec grants, it's going to fund development of bridge contracts for Aztec Connect at inception. So a bridge contract is a simple 50 to 100 line interface, allowing Aztec's rollup to interact with with a given L1 smart contract. So if you're interested in, I guess, kind of like building this and applying for these grants, be sure to do so. There's obviously money up for grabs for people who do that. So if you're a developer, this is the kind of like process. You review the requested bridge contracts that are already at this link here. Choose one or propose your own. Apply for a grant, get funding, and FaceTime with the Aztec core team, and then deploy. Pretty simple process. I really do like that you get FaceTime with the Aztec core team as well. There are a lot of smart cookies over there, so that'd be really cool as well. But yeah, if you're a developer interested in kind of tackling these kind of things, definitely go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description. And it might be a cool little holiday project as well. I mean, I know it's 3 days before Christmas, so maybe you can work on this over Christmas and New Year's as a kind of little holiday project to learn all about Aztec and the broader ZK space. So speaking of ZK, StarkWare announced today that they have formed a strategic partnership with OKEx. So they described the partnership as reflecting their team's mutual commitment to make cryptocurrency and DeFi strategies accessible to all OKEx users, starting with an easy direct onboarding to StarkNet. So this is just another kind of like centralized exchange on-ramp to an L2. Really, really awesome to see that OKEx is already supporting StarkNet, even though it's still at a very early stage in its life cycle here. But it's good that we get this sooner rather than later. And again, I really hate how Coinbase is dragging their feet here. They still haven't even enabled Polygon's POS chain, let alone L2s on Ethereum. It's, from my understanding, it really isn't something that should take very long. I mean, and same with Binance. I mean, they did deposits from Arbitrum, but they haven't done withdrawals yet as far as I know, unless I missed that. But I don't think they've enabled withdrawals yet. I don't think they're dragging their feet on purpose. I just think that either their organizations are so big that it just takes forever to do something, or it's just not a priority for them. So I think that maybe if it's not a priority for them, it means not enough people are asking for it. And I think that's in part due to the fact that these L2s don't have tokens yet. And I really think that these L2s need to issue their tokens sooner rather than later, because a token is such a great kind of like shelling point for a community to rally around, and it also acts as an incentive to go shill these things, right? To get them adopted and to get them kind of like integrated with different places. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen people kind of like bugging exchanges about L1 integrations or bugging apps to move over to these other kind of like EVM compatible L1s, and that's because they have a token, right? People hold this token, they're motivated to do this. It's all about incentives at the end of the day. So I really do hope these L2s come out with a token sooner rather than later. And as I've said before, I think once one of them do it, the rest will follow. I think Matic is a special case. You may be wondering, well, Matic is an L2 token. I think it's a special case in that Matic has been around for quite a while already. So from what I've seen, people don't consider it to be kind of like in the same kind of, same reasoning as the other kind of like L2s out there, like something like an Arbitrum or an Optimism or a ZK Sync or StarkNet, something new, I guess. But the funny thing is that Matic has performed so well this year and continues to perform so well that I don't get why people are kind of like not bearish on it, but at the same time, they're kind of like leaving it out of the conversation a little bit there. And the funny thing is the Polygon POS chain actually has an incredible amount of adoption, and it's growing at an incredible pace as well. So I think that's definitely in part due to the token, but also in part due to the fact that there's a token for the community to rally around, and the community just goes and bugs projects to deploy to Polygon because of that. So yeah, power of a token, guys. You cannot underestimate it, but still cool to see that OKEx is supporting StarkWare and with StarkNet. I hope that other centralized exchanges follow suit for StarkNet as well. So speaking of Polygon, they put out a tweet yesterday, basically linking to a blog post, I think, titled Polygon Cares, which is basically a guide of how you can onboard your project in a quick and effortless manner to the Polygon POS chain. So it's basically a starter kit here, not a blog post, I should say. So you can see all the links here. There's a ecosystem DAO application, a Polygon starter kit, links to different programs and bounty forms and all that good stuff there. This is the kind of stuff that I think Polygon does so much better than every other ecosystem. Their business development and marketing teams are just like next level. And I'm not just saying this because I'm an advisor. Seriously, I follow every project in this space, every Ethereum-based project in this space, and all these other kind of like things, especially the L2s. And I think it's safe to say that Polygon has the best BD and marketing departments out of all of them right now. And they've had it for quite a while. And not only do they do good marketing and business development, but they also do good outreach to developers. Stuff like this is exactly what's needed. And this isn't to say that kind of like the other ecosystems, the other L2 ecosystems aren't doing this either. They do it. They have really great documentation, and they really do make it easy for people to onboard onto them. But at the same time, Polygon has just been doing it for a very long time. They go above and beyond. They don't just do kind of like the standard stuff. They try to think of ways to kind of like improve it over time and make it even better for developers, which is really important because without developers, an ecosystem doesn't really have anything to do. There's no apps and stuff. I know people like have been complaining about some of the L2s being like, oh, there's not much to do on there. Like, I'm just gonna wait around because these apps haven't been deployed there yet. And it just kind of strengthens my thesis is that the users are always going to follow the developers, and it's why the EVM ecosystem, or I guess the EVM standard, is going to continue to be dominant because developers don't want to spend like a lot of time, or most developers don't want to spend a lot of time learning a new language, and getting their code re-audited, deploying to a whole new ecosystem when there's not really much demand for it in the first place. Whereas deploying to an EVM compatible or EVM equivalent network is super easy for them to do, and one of those networks obviously is the Polygon POS chain. So yeah, just great to see this kind of thing here. Again, if you're a developer, definitely go check this out. But even if you're not, you can check this out. You can definitely see what goes on behind the scenes of getting a project onto Polygon. So Hashflow announced their token today at hashflow.com/token. So HFT will be the token ticker, and it will be Hashflow's governance token. It will be available to claim at the end of January 2022. So again, just a disclaimer here, I'm an investor in Hashflow, just to kind of like get that out there. But I think, it's funny because like, we all know that everything's going to have a token, right? And it's pretty much going to be a governance token. But essentially in this Twitter thread here, they detail what the token is, what it's going to do, what the kind of supply looks like. You can see here that most of the supply is going to ecosystem development, and then core team and investors are, I guess, like 45% of the supply together. So core team 20%, investors 25%, ecosystem development at 55%, and 31.25% goes to the community treasury, 5.25% to early community contributors, and 14% to the lifeblood of the Hashflow protocol, its market makers. You can see the kind of like breakdown here. 45% of the supply will go to the core team. After 10 years, so over time, these will be diluted via token inflation that will mint an additional 5% each year into the community treasury. After 10 years, the ecosystem development allocation will increase to 68%. So there is some inflation here as time goes on as well. But anyway, you can go read, I guess, like the whole Twitter thread here for essentially the breakdown of it. I think you can already see what you're eligible for in terms of an airdrop if you go to the website. So that's really cool to see. But yeah, I spoke about Hashflow the other day, about how it's kind of like a cross-chain MEV-resistant exchange with that gives you kind of like zero slippage, similar to what 0x is trying to do, where it's got like a network of market makers. Instead of being an AMM, it's just kind of like market makers filling and fulfilling orders, I should say. So a really cool project, but again, I am an investor in it, so maybe a bit biased here, but yeah, very, very cool to see that they've announced their token here. And again, guys, I keep reminding you that every project's going to have a token. Pretty much all of them are going to do airdrops. It's worth your time to go out there and farm these airdrops, because even if it is only on the low end, even if it is only, and I say this, it's just funny, only a 4-figure airdrop, right? Which is still a lot of money, but like, it's funny that I'm saying that. It's still very much worth it. And a lot, much of the time for a lot of these projects, they are 4-figure airdrops, 5-figure ones. Sometimes people get 6 figures. It depends on kind of like what you did for the project. If you did more than just kind of like use the protocol, you helped them out, you were an early contributor, all that good stuff there. And some people even get like kind of 7-figure airdrops as well, which has been crazy in the past. I mean, at one point my GTC airdrop was worth 7 figures, I believe. So yeah, not trying to kind of like brag or anything there, but like just, I mean, when I saw that, I was just kind of like in disbelief. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just kind of like donated on this platform over the years, and kind of like now I have like all these GTC tokens, and obviously it's not just me. There's a lot of other people that got a lot of tokens from other projects. I know that there are a few kind of like big ENS airdroppers that got 6 or 7-figure airdrops as well there. So yeah, I mean, it pays to be an active Ethereum Web3 user. So definitely go out there and do that. As I mentioned before, there is a channel in the Discord server called airdrop hunting. So if you want to kind of like go in there and see what people are hunting and see what people kind of like suggest playing around with, definitely do so, because at the end of the day, this is free money, guys. Like, I know a lot of you will just sell the airdrop. That's fine. I mean, a lot of the airdrops I've sold to, I'm going to be totally honest here. I'm not interested in participating in governance in most of these kind of like protocols out there. And you know, if I'm getting an airdrop which is free money, one, I do have to sell half of it anyway for taxes, and then you know, the other half, I'm just like, well, why am I going to kind of like keep this? I'll just sell it. I'll just buy some more ETH with it, right? So like I'm going to fiat. Why would I go to dirty fiat? But like, you know, buying more ETH with it is always a good thing. But yeah, definitely check out that channel in the Discord server. All right, so last up we have Ethereum.org have announced that the Ethereum.org homepage is now live in over 20 languages. This is really cool. So obviously it's been in English before, and I think they supported a few other languages. I don't know if it's going to... Oh, there we go. It's loaded here. So you can click up the top right to look at what languages are supported. I'm not sure. I think this is very slow. So I don't have internet in my new place right now. So I'm using my phone's hotspot, so it might be a little bit kind of like laggy here to load. But yeah, I don't think it's loading correctly. But anyway, you can click the top right here to kind of go to languages and see what's supported. I don't think they actually list which languages are supported here, but I'm sure it's probably the 20 most popular. Okay, it's loading now. So yeah, you can see here languages like Arabic, Chinese, simplified and traditional, Czech, Dutch, German, Lithuanian, Korean, Norwegian. I mean, you can see the whole list here, right? Vietnamese. Really, really cool, because the Ethereum homepage has a lot of great info on it already. And then they're doing translations for each one of the pages that they've got as well. There's a lot of pages on the Ethereum.org website now. And as I've said before, because Ethereum is a global kind of network and a global movement, it doesn't make sense for it just to be available in English, maybe one or two other languages. It needs to be available in as many languages as possible to cover as much of the world as we can, because we shouldn't just be targeting the English-speaking people. We should be targeting everyone. Ethereum as a protocol allows you to build on it in any language that you want to, as long as kind of like your code follows the rules of the protocol and everything like that. So very, very cool to see this. The Ethereum.org team is absolutely awesome. Like I have a group with them because of ETHUB, and we sometimes collaborate on things together, and they're just stellar. They really do kill it. And I mean, I've spoken about the website before and how it's just amazing how much this has changed in a few short years. If for those of you who were around a few years ago, the Ethereum.org website had remained basically static from 2014 or 2015 until I think 2019 or something like that, or maybe even 2020, where it got completely revamped after the community asking for it for a very long time, and now there's a dedicated team taking care of it as well. So very, very cool to see that. Very cool to see them supporting additional languages here. But I think on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.